Sheriff Donnell was a seasoned man. Gray in his beard, a permanent furrow in his brow, he'd seen everything this town had to offer. But when he laid eyes on the boy in the red jacket, something in his face changed. It wasn't confusion. It wasn't disbelief. It was fear. He knelt down, searching Benji's face with trembling eyes. "My God, it's him." Benji just looked up at him, blank as ever, and repeated, "They're gone now." Sheriff Donnell stood up slowly, walked over to Lena, and whispered, "That boy hasn't aged a day." Lena, Benji Caldwell would be 12 years old today. Lena nodded. "I know, but look at him. It is him." They drove him to the local clinic. Blood samples were taken. Photos. They ran every test they could. But here's where it gets strange. No fingerprints in the system. No medical match. And the blood. It wasn't normal. His white blood cell count was almost non-existent, like his immune system had shut down years ago. Yet he was walking, breathing, talking alive. For 3 days, Benji stayed at the clinic. He never ate, never drank, never slept. Nurses reported strange noises coming from his room at night. Whispers. Low scratching sounds against a window on the 3rd floor. Once a nurse swore she saw him standing outside the window, just staring in. And then on the 3rd night, he vanished. No one saw him leave. There was no footage. No signs of a break-in or escape. Just an empty bed and the red jacket folded neatly at the edge. But that wasn't the end, because that's when the disappearances started again. That 3rd night changed everything. At exactly 3:03 a.m., Nurse Carla was doing her rounds. She hated the night shift, especially in the old wing of Fairview Clinic. The lights always flickered. The hallways echoed. And room 303, where the boy was kept, felt wrong. As she passed Benji's room, she paused. The door was wide open. Inside, the boy sat perfectly still on the hospital bed. He wasn't looking at her. He was staring at the corner of the room, where the shadows pooled unnaturally thick, like they didn't belong to this world. Carla stepped in, softly calling out, "Benji, are you all right?" He didn't respond, but the whispering, it started again. Not from him. From the shadows. Carla's skin crawled. The whispers grew louder. Dozens of voices, all layered over each other, some angry, some sobbing, some laughing. Then Benji turned to her, slowly. His eyes were different. Black, bottomless pits. And he said in a voice not his own, "They want the door open again." Suddenly, every window in the room shattered outward. Glass rained down like needles. The lights burst in a crack of electricity. Carla screamed, and then fell completely silent. When security rushed in moments later, the room was empty. No Carla, no Benji, just a trail of wet footprints leading to the closet. But the closet was sealed shut. No handle, no keyhole, just a faded symbol scratched deep into the wood, an old sigil Sheriff Donnell recognized from somewhere he'd hoped he'd never see again. A sigil from the Devil's Hollow case back in 1978. He told no one, not yet, but the moment he saw it, he whispered to himself, "It's happening again." By morning, word had spread like wildfire across Fairmont County. The boy was gone again. Sheriff Donnell stood in the shattered doorway of room 303, jaw clenched, trying to piece together what happened. The cameras in the clinic had all gone static between 3:02 and 3:06 a.m. Every single file corrupted. No signs of forced entry. No signs of exit. Except that trail of wet footprints. They didn't lead toward the door. They led to the wall. More specifically, to the corner of the room where the shadows had been deepest. Forensics couldn't explain it. Thermal scans showed a sudden drop to sub-zero temperatures in that corner. And Carla, still missing. No sign of her anywhere. Not a trace. Later that evening, Lena sat in her living room, sifting through old news clippings of Benji's original disappearance. And something struck her. In every photo taken back then, a thick mist hovered behind him. Even in daylight. Sometimes barely visible, but was always there. Fog Hollow, that cursed stretch of woods just east of town. The place where Benji had vanished all those years ago. Lena grabbed her coat, flashlight, and a revolver she hadn't touched since her husband died. She called Sheriff Donnell and told him where she was going. He didn't hesitate. "Don't go in alone. I'll meet you there." But she was already halfway down the gravel road by the time she hung up. Fog Hollow was different now. Thicker. Colder. Wrong. Trees bent in unnatural ways, like they were listening. The fog pulsed and breathed, wrapping around her legs like fingers. She could hear it, the whispering again. And then she saw him. Benji. Standing exactly where he vanished 10 years ago. Motionless. Staring right at her. But his eyes were hollow. His skin pale, like frostbitten wax. His red jacket was soaked and torn. And behind him a figure loomed. Tall. Gaunt. Dressed in rotting black robes. Its face hidden by shadow, except for a jagged, skeletal grin that stretched from ear to ear. The fog curled around its body like smoke. Benji opened his mouth and whispered, "You broke the seal. He's awake now." Lena stepped back, heart thundering, and the thing behind Benji moved forward. Silent, predatory, its limbs too long, bones cracking with each step. The ground split open beneath Lena's feet, and the forest screamed. Just as the entity reached for her, a gunshot rang out. Sheriff Donnell. He grabbed her, dragged her back through the trees as the fog chased them like a living beast, howling and shrieking. They didn't stop until the sun rose. And when they looked back, Fog Hollow was gone, completely vanished, like it was never there. But that night, across town, in the window of every house, a boy in a red jacket stood watching. Benji. And behind him, in the dark, that same smiling thing. Waiting. Lena's boots sank into the wet moss as she stepped into Fog Hollow. The woods were deathly silent. No wind. No birds. Just fog thick, suffocating, almost alive. She swept her flashlight left to right, but it barely cut through the haze. Every step she took echoed like she was walking through a vast, empty cathedral. Then she saw it. Small footprints. Bare feet. Child-sized. They led off the main path, deep into the part of the forest locals never entered. Even the animals avoided it. She followed them. The deeper she went, the stranger things became. Tree trunks warped unnaturally, some split open, as if clawed from the inside. Symbols were etched into the bark, circular patterns with jagged lines, like ancient seals. And then she heard it. A faint whisper, her name. Lena. She spun, flashlight flickering, breath caught in her throat. No one. But the air felt charged, like something was standing right behind her, breathing down her neck. Suddenly, her radio crackled. "Lena, where are you?" It was Sheriff Donnell's voice. "I just got to Hollow. Your car's still here." She lifted the radio, trembling. "I'm inside. I followed footprints. I think he's here." The radio hissed, then went silent. Then a child's voice, whispering through the static. "We never left." Her flashlight died. Everything went black. And in that blackness, two small hands reached out from a mist and touched her face. "Come find me, Miss Lena." The radio dropped from her hand. It wasn't just a voice. It was Benji's voice. But layered under it was something else. Something older. A rasping echo, like wind dragging through bones. Lena stood frozen. Then the fog began to move. It curled around the trees like fingers. The air grew colder with every breath, and her flashlight dimmed, not flickered, dimmed, like the light itself was being swallowed. Then she saw a shape ahead. Small. Still. It was a boy. Facing away. Standing in the middle of a blackened clearing where nothing grew. "Benji," she whispered. The boy didn't move. She took a step forward. "Benji, it's me. It's Lena. We've been looking for you." Still nothing. Another step. And then his head twisted around all the way, not turning naturally, but like it was pulled, cracking, bending. His eyes were hollow voids. His mouth hung open, too wide. From it came a chorus of whispers, not one voice, but dozens layered and discordant. "Not yours to save." Lena stepped back, heart pounding. The ground beneath her shifted. She looked down. Hands. Pale, rotten hands, reaching up through the earth. She screamed, stumbling backward, as one clutched her ankle, cold as ice. The boy took a step forward. "You brought us back." Behind her, shadows slithered. Fog Hollow was waking up. Lena gasped, heart thumping, as she pulled her foot free from the clutches of the skeletal hands. She didn't look back. Her breath quickened, each step carrying her deeper into the darkness, away from the boy, away from the hands. But the fog kept following. Closer. Creepier. Her body was running on adrenaline now. Every fiber screamed for her to stop, to fight, but there was nowhere to hide in Fog Hollow. It felt as though the very ground beneath her was alive, breathing, waiting.